The idea that we had is that music sounds better when people play together. You know, the time of tracking everything and stapling it to a grid and all that kind of stuff, that's not the kind of music we make here. We make music in a collaborative way, and bands are bands here, and they get an opportunity to sit in the room and look at each other. Their headphones sound great, and it just sounds like you're making a record together versus, you know, everybody being in a separate room and there's, you know, the perfect isolation and that kind of stuff. There's bleed here. That's how we record. There's bleed in the mix, you know. Learn your part, play your part, and do it well with your band of, you know, mates. So Willis Sound is located in a very small town just outside of Ann Arbor. Willis, back in the day, was a fur trading town, and they also had a mill here where, you know, farmers used to come and mill their grains and that kind of stuff. And so today, the town of Willis really has like 3 or 4 businesses. My partner, Jason McGee, and I, we were like, you know, is there a way to find a church? And we were joking around about churchfinder.com. And of course, there's like a church finding website. And so we found this place and put an offer in on it. And since it had been abandoned for 10 years, it was pretty easy to come to an agreement with the pastor. Once we took possession of the place, walking through it was, I would say, overwhelming, to put it mildly. The floors hadn't, you know, been touched in, you know, 10 years, and there was mold in the basement, and we had to remediate everything. So we came in and had to take out all the drywall in the basement and had to wear these Tyvek suits. And I mean, it was just like a restoration process from the ground up. When you're building a control room, you know, there's a lot of unknown factors, you know, when you're doing it for your first time. So our idea was like, well, let's not screw it up as we build it the first time, like, so let's build it right. So we took a lot of time in planning, figuring out the math for the room. Vintage King started to help us with the design and architecture of the space. We really felt that, you know, if you're gonna buy something that's really versatile and that could really round out your sound and work in a lot of situations. So we do a blend of tape and Pro Tools here, and the API console works really well for that type of workflow. It's just been like beyond our expectations, actually. You know, as we learn more about the routing and how flexible the console is, every mix just sounds punchier, brighter. Drums are just killer through the system. One of the first things we did is started to talk to Cedric about, you know, the workflow for the patch bay. And so out of that conversation came a lot of questions from the Vintage King team about like, well, what does the space look like? What's the workflow going to be like when you're cutting in the space? And so they, you know, you could tell like right off the bat that they'd done this a million times.
So we offered Ben a turnkey service, and what a turnkey service involves is we work with Ben closely and consult with him about how does he want his studio to work? What's his workflow? How does he want everything to be set up? And we really help him pull everything together. We spec'd out how many patch bays he was going to have. We laid out a design for all the normaling and all the audio routing throughout his studio. And we figured out all the links for all the cabling.
And so eventually what it turned into was a collaboration where, you know, the Vintage King staff was saying, this is what works really well, and we listened. And so when you walk through the space, you'll see all the floor pockets cut into the floor. You'll see the snakes that were provided, you know, the VK cables, that make the workflow and session workflow really, really easy. Most projects even that we've cut here are all natural reverb. The space is big enough that we can throw a mic in the stairwell or out in the church there and reamp or just create wonderful sounds that way. And so when we were talking about wiring workflow, you know, we have, you know, line and speaker runs throughout the church to be able to set up unique reverb sounds that would be difficult in, another situation. Now, if I want, to cut something, with a natural reverb sound, I just plug into the patch bay in the space that I want and throw a mic up. And it's really easy to do. The long-term goal for Willis Sound would be to have a place that's integrated into the community and is going to be here beyond me or beyond anyone else that's here today. I'd like it to be, at the end of the day, 50 years from now or 100 years from now, people are going to walk into this place and be like, every band in this region has been here or has had some experience with this place, and it's been wonderful.